Ketchum, and you're listening to Silph Radio.
This is Silph Radio, a Pokemon podcast. There is a proverb in Alola which goes, when in doubt, ask Slowking. So that's what we did today. We asked all there is to know, and we tirelessly did research, all of which we promptly forgot. And we're going to do our best to recall it all. Today on the podcast, I have with me Mr. Andrew Spohn of Amusement Sparks. Once again,
hi, it's a pleasure to be here as always.
I appreciate that.
Love doing these Pokemon-specific episodes for sure.
Yeah, they're some of my favorite ones to do, and I think doing the I wouldn't say the lesser-known Pokemon, but the ones that don't get as much attention paid to them always pays off. Like, it opens up the doors for so many bigger conversations about the Pokemon universe.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about the little guy, and every little piece of the universe matters and manifests the rest of the universe. And what we see in others, we also see in ourselves.
Whoa.
I don't know that.
And namaste to you, too. I wasn't ready for that.
Amen.
I'm excited. I mean, well, let's get this all out of the way. It's an adult podcast, not for kids, not owned by Game Freak, Nintendo, or any of that. And this is kind of a part 2. You don't have to listen to the last episode, but I kind of feel like there's going to be a lot of moments in this episode where we're like, oh, last time we already talked about blah, blah, blah. So you might as well just go listen to the last episode about Shellder. That was fun.
That was a good one. That was really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited because we're finally covering one of my favorite Pokemon again. I think it's been all the way since Shroomish and Breloom since we covered one that I would actually say is like one of my top favorites. I don't know. I'm trying to recount everything, but I think so. So I'm pretty stoked. I am a huge fan of Slowbro and the whole family, really.
Cool. Me too. I really like just the aesthetic is so unique, and they exist at a totally different pace from the rest of the Pokemon universe.
Literally.
Yeah, they're doing their own thing out there.
Yeah, there's just something so cool about the design. It's like simple and beautiful and iconic. It's a Pokemon. Like, I feel like there's a few Pokemon that are just like classically Pokemon. Like Poliwhirl is one of them. Slowbro is one of them.
I'm with you. Like, where they have that potential to be an icon in the Pokemon universe. Like, I totally get what you're saying. Like, it's absolutely a Pokemon. This could not exist in a different franchise. Or maybe it could. I don't know. It's just a great design, and it is like a tent pole.
It's not over-designed, yeah.
Right.
It feels real. I love it. I have a Slowbro on my team. That's fun. I mean, not necessarily like in-game, but like my character. There's this whole angle where like Slowpoke was one of the Pokemon that he was training way back in like his origin story that he ended up like leaving behind so he was like involved with this like heist to get a bunch of Master Balls. It's this big long story.
Wow.
And he has this secret stash of Master Balls hidden because every time a new region came out, I like expanded my character's story to be like he traveled to that region and went through this whole story arc there. Slowpoke was one that he left behind in Kanto. Even before his like Kanto story began, Slowpoke wasn't on his team anymore. He was one of the Pokemon he trained like as a youth that he left behind to like guard this stash of Master Balls from like his origin story, more or less. And eventually, after all these regions have like went on and on, once I kind of stopped playing the game, I sort of started realizing maybe my character just kind of went back to Kanto and started just doing Silph radio.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
so he's just been kind of not doing anything for the last few generations. And since he went back to Kanto, I'm like, man, that's where like the story really opened up for there to be a Slowbro, and he actually reunites with this character from his past that's now evolved and has been patiently, slowly, dumbly, not necessarily even waiting for him to return, just sort of waiting where he told him to wait.
I like that a lot, and the idea of having Silph radio in the Pokemon canon is really cool. Like just having someone doing, a thoughtful, like, I don't know, almost like a philosophy-based approach to their own universe and kind of exploring these things and like, why is this way? A little bit of like conspiracy theory or like, creative interpretation of the facts. It's kind of a cool idea. Like that'd be an awesome piece if they added that into the anime or something.
Thanks, man. It works really well because he grew up like Mr. Fuji was like his adopted father, and he like had this sort of like secret hideout type deal. Like just him and his Pokemon would go there to be alone at the Pokemon Tower. So that was sort of his spot was like at the Pokemon Tower. He eventually like left and joined Team Rocket, and that was kind of his home, Now that the Pokemon Tower doesn't exist anymore and it's a radio tower, it just kind of makes sense that that's where he'd return to, I don't know, to do something with his life, I guess, rather than just, steal Master Balls and stuff.
That's awesome. I really like that.
Thank you. Anyway, let's talk about this Pokemon, though. Like, I don't think people came here to hear about my the fanfic in my brain. We're talking today about number 79, Slowpoke, or Yadon in Japanese.
Have you heard the song?
Yeah, by Imakuni, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he did the Japanese version, or one of the Japanese versions.
Oh, I haven't heard the English.
Then there's also an English one.
No.
Oh, yeah. It's actually pretty good. It's like this kind of reggae style song. The Japanese one's called What's Going On, Yadon, and the American one is just called the Slowpoke song, I think.
That's great. Yeah, it's the same song then.
They're both pretty fun. Like the lyrics, they just translated the Japanese lyrics into English and made it rhyme, and it's a pretty close translation. But it's just a cute, funny song, and the music video really kind of celebrates Slowpoke's design. It's really good.
I know that I'm very familiar with the music video in Japan. Is there an English music video as well?
It's, I think, the same one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they just took the exact same one.
Yeah, that's totally Imakuni in the English video. We talk a little bit about this in the TCG episode we did.
Right, about Imakuni.
Yeah.
What a cool guy.
Yeah. Slowpoke is, and the name's cool. It's the slow Pokemon, and it's a Slowpoke. Simple, but cool. In Japan, Yadokari is hermit crab, and don means like slow, dull, or stupid, so Yadon. And not only that, but Yadon Nushi means host, as in like in the sense of like a thing that a parasite feeds off. So not like you're hosting services or something like that.
Right. It's a really good name, though. It's one of those that is kind of a double entendre, or not like in a, sexy way, but like it means two different things at once. It's just clever in Japanese.
Yeah.
And so is Slowpoke. I mean, including slow Pokemon and just the word Slowpoke.
Totally.
They're both pretty clever.
It took me a long time to realize that Slowbro was clever too, because it's two Pokemon that are like joined together. They're brothers, and it's Slowbro. And for a long time I was just like, it rhymes great. And
yeah, I thought it was just like random. Like it might as well have been like Slow Dude. It's just like Slowbro, but it's like no, because they're like brothers. They're bonded, symbiotic relationship kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe parasitic. It's debatable.
Absolutely, I like it. It was originally named Slow-Mo, which not as good, but it's okay.
True. Yeah, they got better.
And its species type is the dopey Pokemon. It's type water psychic. I'm gonna assume most people are familiar with it, but it's a small pink quadrupedal Pokemon with like a tan muzzle, a white tip at the end of its tail. The shinies are just slightly like lighter and duller pink, and it's sometimes depicted with a white striped belly and sometimes not. What is a Slowpoke? Like, what type of animal is it?
That's the real question here. I've heard it described as a salamander / hippo / otter, and I guess that makes sense. I think
it doesn't sound like it makes sense at first, but like if you look up like giant salamanders that live in Japan, it actually does look a lot like a giant. They can be up to like 5 feet long. They're fucking huge.
Wow.
And it actually does look a lot like that. And they're kind of pink. They're like pink and black. There's also this significant difference between like there's 2 types of giant salamanders in the world, and the Chinese ones are really aggressive and mean and they like attack everything, but the Japanese ones are really just lazy and chill, and they just kind of sit around and do nothing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And otter is weird, but if you look up a giant otter, like again, it's a type of animal, they look a lot like a Slowpoke.
Yeah, it's such a unique design that I had never really considered what kind of creature is this. Like, in my head, it was something like a bear, like that kind of lives by the water. It's like, it doesn't look like a bear whatsoever. I don't know where that thought came from, but it just looks so, like, cuddly and...
I imagine it as, like, a sea lion type, like texture or body. Like, I don't see it as having any type of, like, overt like hair or fur, like maybe hair,
right?
But
smooth boy.
Yeah. I don't know. Its French name is I'm not even gonna try to pronounce French words, but it's Ramalas, which means soft big dog, and its Chinese name is basically little slow-witted creature, which was my nickname in middle school. I don't know. It doesn't give us many clues to what it is, but I think that's, again, what kind of makes it so iconically a Pokemon. Like, sure, Poliwhirl is a frog, but is it, though? It's a Pokemon, you know?
Yeah, right. I mean, Poliwhirl looks a lot more unique than Poliwag, I would say. You know, it looks more iconic as a Pokemon because it has, like, the little gloves and feet. It's like, that's not a frog, really. That's a Pokemon at this point, whereas... some of them are just like seal. It's like, oh, hey, it's like a seal, but it's spelled different. Okay. You know, it's like this is one of those iconic Pokemon that is not just an animal with bigger eyes.
Is there a deeper meaning behind Seal's name? There has to be something we're missing there.
I hope so.
Like, it can't just be eel.
I have no clue. That would just like popped in the top of my mind. I didn't mean to offend all the Seal fans out there, but as far as I know, like that's one of the most straightforward designs and names.
Yeah,
you know,
Dugong also. Well, I guess Dugong,
yeah, exactly.
They changed the spelling so that the word do is in there, but still.
Yeah, but that's like saying water seal in a way. You know, it's like, well, yeah, they're kind of all, there's not like a fire seal or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. So its height is listed as 3 foot 11 inches. Now, do you think that refers to the length or?
I imagine that is nose to tail.
That's what I would think too.
Because otherwise, it like doesn't quite grow as we get to the other, you know, the evolutions. They're all, I don't know, like around 6 feet tall. And so if he's 3 feet tall, meaning like from the toe to the top of his back, then when he stands up, he's probably 6 feet tall already. Which actually, now that I think about it, might make sense because
maybe
the actual pink part doesn't change very much as it evolves. Like the Slowpoke kind of stays a Slowpoke throughout its lifetime.
It barely changes.
It's just the Shellder that changes. Yeah. And that's brought up in the Pokedex. I'm sure we'll get to it later, but that is an interesting detail I hadn't really realized until I got into further research on this topic. Is the Slowpoke is kind of just doing its own thing, and the Shellder is the one that's getting powered up as it evolves and changing its... The Shellder's like leading the charge.
It really is. I want to explore that more throughout this podcast because that is, I think, my main takeaway from researching this is, we'll get to it. We'll work there.
Sure. Absolutely.
Obviously, most people are familiar with what this is, but we don't go in assuming that. So it's this very dim-witted, slow Pokemon. it takes it up to 5 seconds to process pain was like the main fact that got, that was like the Snapple fact that got thrown around the playground.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of time for them to like react to outside stimuli. They say that it often forgets what it's doing and supposedly spends a lot of time just like apparently lost in thought.
Right, but it's mysterious as to what it's actually thinking about. It seems almost like sloth-like in a way, where it just exists on a different time scale from the rest of us. Just from the way that it says its name, it's kind of, like a drowsy sound. It sounds like a human who just woke up. I don't know.
When you say exists on a different time scale, not like molecularly, not like its atoms are vibrating.
I'm not sure exactly.
Not like the Flash, but you're kind of saying more like Treebeard. Like it's like,
yes.
Oh yeah, no, I can take a month to say my sentence. Like I exist on a much grander time scale than you.
And we don't know much detail about when, the average life expectancy for each species of Pokemon. That's maybe a little dark for the kids out there, but I'm curious about if this species lives longer than the average Pokemon because it takes its time with everything it does. And I don't know, it's a much more peaceful, like the kind of, have you heard of like the slow movement before, or like slow philosophy? It's like a school of thought, I guess. Their like main tenet is like things shouldn't be done quickly. They should be done at the speed that is best for them. I have a quote here. It is a cultural revolution against the notion that faster is always better. The slow philosophy is not about doing everything at a snail's pace. It's about seeking to do everything at the right speed, savoring the hours and minutes rather than just counting them. Doing everything as well as possible instead of as fast as possible. It's about quality over quantity and everything from work to food to parenting. So it's like kind of a cool idea, and I don't know that that's exactly what Slowpoke and Bro and King are going for, but they're definitely going at a slow pace. And you could say if there was a philosophy of Slowpoke, it might be that.
That's great. Yeah, I had a friend once who told me, he was like, have you ever heard of the guy who goes to the tailor and he's like, work slowly, I've got a meeting in a half hour, because he doesn't want the tailor to make a mistake because he's rushing through the job. And I'm like, oh, I like that. And
yeah, that's cute.
Yeah, I've noticed like one of the things that makes you really resistant to like establishing like a daily routine and stuff like that is like you feel like you have so much to do that like you don't have time to like meditate and like prepare your breakfast and sit down and just be present through it and not, distract yourself and do other things while you're doing it. And but every time I've integrated that practice into my life, I actually end up having more time. I cannot describe it, but I end up having more time left over in the end, probably just because my mind is less of a mess, and so I'm a better time manager in the moment.
And I think that your experience of time is connected to your stress levels a lot. Like, if you're really stressed about something, it's going to make you feel like you don't have enough time to do everything, but it's because you're overthinking it or you're not being present. Whereas if you're just like, okay, I'm going to do the dishes, and you're going to be like just focused on doing the dishes, it's like kind of a relaxing process, and then you have time to kind of slowly plan out your next movement and like take things one step at a time. And I don't know, there is like a connection there, I think, where if you take your time with things, you feel like you have more time, and also you're happier typically. Like you and I both have a lot of retail experience, and if someone comes in and you're like, oh, sorry, just a minute, and they're like, oh, no rush, that person is typically happier than the person who's like, oh, come on, like I gotta get out of here. It's like, okay, this guy's got a pretty crappy life, I bet. Whereas the slow-paced person, they're going to enjoy their time here. Like, they're in this cool store. I mean, just wait 3 more minutes. You'll be all right. Play on your phone or something.
Yeah, and be in the present moment. Like, that's one of the big teachings in Buddhism of mindfulness that's often misinterpreted as, like, hyper-awareness. Mm-hmm. But it's more just, like, if you're having a cup of coffee, there's no reason to, like, unconsciously drink it. You paid for that cup of coffee. And like, maybe rather than reading the newspaper while you drink it, just drink it and enjoy the sensation of the coffee. And like, I don't know, it's weird. And it is sort of a thing that oddly requires practice to even appreciate and notice. But yeah.
Yeah, totally. And like, think about when was the last time you used the toilet without being on your phone? You're missing out on all those wonderful sensations that you used to experience.
Exactly.
Oh boy. I'm so sorry, listeners.
Well,
Golly.
Hey, you know what? It's a joke, but at the same time, I mean, why shouldn't you be present and aware through something that your body's doing?
Listen to your body, people. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and that's a value that is often overlooked, or sometimes even, I don't want to like use too harsh a word like demonized or anything, but it's a value that's often not just overlooked, but like considered negative in and of itself, but it really isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that.
I agree. I think it's a positive trait, being present, being aware. Yeah.
And I wonder, to bring it back to Slowpoke, because it's a psychic type, I wonder if its brain is just so busy doing all this psychic stuff that it's not able to keep track of its errant thoughts or its thoughts about, I don't know, its thoughts.
Right. I think that there is something going on in its mind that is just on a broader scale than what most other, humans and Pokemon can really fathom. I think it's one of those really, like, I don't know, there are people out there who are just extremely deep thinkers, and they'll just kind of zone out for like the whole time you're watching a movie or something, and they're like, man, I think I figured out why I feel this way about my dad. Or, you know what I mean? They're like, wow, you just did some real psychoanalysis on yourself, and the rest of us were just, watching this Disney movie or whatever.
Oh, it was a Steven Spielberg movie.
I'm sorry.
Which explains why he had the deep revelation about his relationship with his father.
But I just think that there is some processing going on in Slowpoke's mind, and maybe Slowpoke, while it's young, is not as great at getting results out of that. They're building that framework of deep thought and slow, just slow processing.
Yeah.
And being present, for sure. It's not exactly a perfect theory because Slowpoke is so slow to react, whereas if you're present, usually you have better instincts and reactions, and you're like better at martial arts. I don't think that's the case with Slowpoke. For example, like the main thing it's famous for doing is putting its tail into the water and trying to catch, prey or a Shellder or whatever. But it said it can take up to an entire day to realize that it's caught something on its tail, which would kind of prove that it's not necessarily all that present in the moment.
Yeah, I have a thought on that too.
Cool.
But I think that's going to take us down a different road. So, like, in regard to its mental strengths and weaknesses, its abilities, its actual like Pokemon abilities, are oblivious or own tempo, which basically either it can't become infatuated or it can't become confused, which I think works perfectly with the mind state. So like it can also be to its benefit.
Absolutely. I believe that is totally correct.
And but as far as the tail, its other ability, it can have the hidden ability Regenerator, which restores a third of its max HP whenever it's withdrawn or switched out. So that's the ability you want to go with. I just like pay it lip service, I guess, because that's the superior ability. But it has nothing to do with its mind state, I don't think. Or maybe it does.
But it does have to do with its kind of salamander-esque nature of being able to regrow its tail. And their tail is like a really significant part of their anatomy in the Pokemon culture.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I spoke too soon. It does have to do with its mind state. It restores a third of its max HP when it's withdrawn or switched out. So, like, when it's like, all right, you know what? I need to take it slow. There's no need to rush through this battle. I'm about to take a break for a minute, chill over here for a little while.
Yeah.
It functions better because it's like it's not in a rush to get everything done. It takes a break when it needs to.
Absolutely, and that's something I think we can all learn from. In the anime, there's an episode.
Next week, we got part 2 of the Slowbro episode. I'm going to go ahead and call the rest of this day a second breakfast. Okay, my bad. What were you saying?
Oh, you're good. In the anime, there's an episode called Enlighten Up that's like about enlightenment, I guess. And there's a group of sort of, Buddhist-like practitioners who are kind of studying Slowpoke and viewing its empty head as a sign of enlightenment. So they're like meditating with Slowpokes and Slowbros, which I think is like a really cool image. Isn't that cool? Like, that'd be an awesome wallpaper for your computer. It's just like some Buddhists meditating, and there's just a few Slowpokes and Slowbros also just kind of chilling. Like, maybe they're meditating, maybe they're just a little dim.
That
but
is
either way,
going to be a cool background for my computer when we are finished with this podcast. I don't remember that episode. Was it in like the Kanto or Johto?
I have no clue. I found it on the internet, but I don't remember what episode it's or what it's called. Enlighten Up, though, the name of the episode.
I'm gonna look it up. That's sounds amazing. I want to do that with my life.
So true.
I don't really, though. I like my computer and my iPod.
But I mean, for an hour a day or something, it'd be nice if you have a little, field or hill behind your house or some nature somewhere.
Oh yeah, meditation
nice.
is great. I meant the whole like going into retreat with Slowbros and Slowpokes in a monastery.
But if you have one on your team or just kind of hanging out at your house,
yeah, which I do.
You might as well. Yeah, right. Exactly. That's what I mean.
So yeah, you brought up though that they're really well known for the way they fish. Their tails secrete a sweet, sappy substance, which actually makes it a popular delicacy. In Alola, they're actually dried and used in stew, though they're not very nutritious. And the fact that it takes them a full day to notice something biting their tail is interesting. It seems like the relationship between Slowpoke and Shellder is so like there's so many factors that contribute to it happening and to it facilitating an evolution that it's like I can't think of a real example, but like those things in the real world that you look at that like people would use as like evidence for intelligent design or like alien engineers and stuff. Yeah, like the fact that they don't feel it biting it gives the Shellder a chance to actually latch on there. And once it does that, well, we're going to explore that.
Sure.
I guess right now.
Yeah. I do have one other little detail about Slowpoke, just singular.
Yeah.
They added this detail in the Ultra Moon Pokedex. Because you remember, like, early on in the series, it was like, the reason why their tail is a delicacy is because people are horrible and they chop them off, and Team Rocket is down in Slowpoke Well doing all these horrible, animal abuse types of things. But then in Ultra Moon, they kind of added this little caveat that I think it makes it more palatable. It says in the Pokedex, although their tails, which fall off naturally, can be found lying around, they are a precious ingredient for cooking. So it's becomes a part of nature instead of people being yucky. It's like, no, their tails just kind of fall off and then they grow a new one.
And
I don't know if that's true or if this is propaganda from, Slowpoke ramen or whatever, but
yeah, it says that they just break off and it barely even bothers the Slowpoke and that they just grow back healthy. Yeah, that does bother me a little bit that they changed that because it does kind of make it like, well, then who cares? Then why did Team Rocket have to go kidnap Slowpokes and chop them off? And what was Kurt so upset about? But basically in the Gold and Silver versions, there's a town in Johto called Azalea Town, and they like celebrate the Slowpoke and Slowbro there. It's part of their like cultural heritage. There's old stories about how Slowpoke yawns predict the rain, and that sort of made them a just like the patron saint of the town. And they built a man-made cave called the Slowpoke Well for the Slowpoke just on the outskirts of town. And there's this whole quest, basically, where Kurt, who lives in Azalea Town, and he's the guy that makes Pokeballs from acorns, he hears that Team Rocket's there cutting off the Slowpoke's tails, and he's pissed, and he runs there to right the wrong, and you've got to go follow him. He falls down and hurts his back, and you got to go pick up his slack and take down Team Rocket. That's what happens when you send a man to do a kid's job.
Yeah, all the world's problems are easily solved by 10-year-old boys who live independently, homelessly.
That is not the official stance of Silph Radio. That is the official stance of Nike.
Wow. But when you're a kid and you're watching this series, it's like, I wish I could be independent. I wish I could go, on this long, extraordinary journey by myself. But, it's...
Wait, Reebok.
It's
Hold
really
on, Reebok. I want to be apolitical on this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's very important.
No, you're good. You're good. I don't know. There's just like that kind of romanticized vision of, to a 10-year-old, that's the coolest thing ever, is to be independent and have your own money and make your own decisions and go to whatever town you want to and not have to go to school or have a job or anything. But in real life, like, I played around with the idea of writing a book of like how to live like you're in an RPG, and it's pretty much, you have to be homeless, you have to kind of do a lot of breaking and entering and taking people's stuff out of their houses, and then just kill a lot of stuff so that your muscles get bigger. It's a pretty dark life.
You don't have to kill things for your muscles to get bigger. In fact, there are much more efficient ways to get your muscles bigger than...
Yeah, absolutely, but you don't do them in RPGs. You don't usually go to the gym. I mean, Pokemon gyms, but that's just so you can beat people up. It's not like there's exercise equipment.
Oh, man.
Yikes.
Now, is it your muscles getting bigger, though, or you becoming more proficient at being a warrior?
Indeed. So anyway, they put their tail in the water, and a little Shellder comes up and clamps on and gets a really good grip. And then what happens?
Well, they evolve. You get Slowbro or Yadoran, the hermit crab Pokemon. It evolves at level 37, oddly, in the game. I don't like that they gave it a level. It's so weird. But
yeah,
it is what it is. In the anime, they just evolve without a Shellder, like, all the fucking time.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they just evolve and a Shellder just appears there.
Oh, that's so dumb. Because I've also seen that the anime is the only place where they show it happening the way that it supposedly happens in canon, where there's the two Pokemon and they kind of merge together.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Oh, come on, guys. Be consistent here.
You're asking way too much of them. Well, actually, no. Right. Consistency is generally one of their skills.
Yeah. I don't know. That's weird.
So the Slowbro is 5'3", and I don't want to do math, but I wish I did, because I want to know if a Slowpoke if it was 3 feet tall from toe to back and it stood up, would it be 5'3"? And then
I bet
the Slowking's what, like 6 foot or something? It's got a crown on.
It's 6'7", I think. It's pretty tall,
but it's wearing a crown.
Oh, you're right.
So yeah,
yes, I think that's the theory, is that the pink part, the Slowpoke, all it does is stand on its hind legs and get some stripes on its belly, but it does not actually change its size whatsoever.
Its claws on its hands change.
Oh, you're right. The number of fingers changes, which is kind of creepy.
A Slowking and a Slowpoke only have 1, and Slowbro has 3. Yeah,
on its hands and 2 on its feet.
And then they both have 1 on their feet, the Slowking and Slowpoke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird. I don't know. I mean, I think... Okay, so clearly it does change a little bit, obviously, or the Slowbro wouldn't have more claws. But it's interesting. So this Slowbro is the only Pokemon that can actually canonically de-evolve. Now, you can't do it in the game, but it's said in the Pokedex that, like, if the Shellder comes off or if its tail breaks off, they de-evolve into a Slowpoke. So do you think they lose the claws?
I don't know. I was just picturing that they would keep like their stripes. Wait, does a Slowbro have stripes? Yeah, it does.
Slowpoke sometimes have stripes and sometimes don't. Like I think I choose to think Slowpoke has stripes and they just sometimes forget to draw them. I don't know.
Well, and that could be that when it's young, before it's evolved the first time, it has no stripes. Once it's evolved and then devolved, it has stripes now.
Oh my God, you're fucking brilliant.
Well, I mean, I just came to that just now, so thank you.
That's great.
But I think that's cool. That works in my headcanon.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because even, like, shinies aren't different for the Slowpokes and Slowbros, but the Slowbros are like a deep purple, the shinies.
Right.
Maybe that's like a reaction to the toxins being injected by the Shellder.
That's cool.
Yeah, and there is like, I think it's like the Pokedex entry in like, I don't know, Pokemon Pinball or some shit that actually says Shellder metamorphoses.
Wow.
Yeah, it uses the word metamorphoses, which is like, you asshole.
Or that there's one person working on the Pokedex team who's like trying to be scientifically accurate. He's like, I know it's cool to call it evolving, but it's not evolving, and we all know it.
I think, though...
And he's just the annoying one who tries to correct everyone all the time.
Maybe it's more of a cultural distinction than an actual biological scientific distinction, like gender or race. Like, maybe the thing it identifies as a Slowbro because a Shellder bit onto it and started getting regular diet of its sap, and the Slowbro started getting a regular diet of the poisons. Yeah. And the Shellder changed shape. They both metamorphosed, and since they've metamorphosed so drastically that it's affected the way they interact with the energy around them, the psychic and water energy around them, it's referred to as evolution. And then if the tail breaks off and it's no longer getting this poison and it's no longer walking bipedally, it's no longer swimming to hunt because it grows a new tail and starts fishing to hunt or whatever, then it's a Slowpoke. Like, why would you call that a Slowbro? It would just confuse people. So, like, maybe it is sort of just as simple as, like, a cultural identity. Not quite as... Well, a cultural identity that is... tangled up in biology, which we're all super familiar with that. Like, there's nothing weird about that being there's plenty weird about that being an aspect of society, but you know what I mean. There's nothing unfamiliar about that.
Absolutely. True. I wonder if the Shellder would return to its normal purple clam-like shape, or if that's where Turbine comes from the Space World demo.
Yeah.
Maybe that is a Shellder that was once a Slowbro.
Yeah, because
it's kind of like after an important relationship, you can't go back to who you were. It's like you're kind of a new version of who you used to be, but even when you're separated again.
Oh man. Yeah. Something I've been tactfully avoiding, like actually I have been consciously avoiding talking about this on the show because I kind of don't want to commit to an answer. And even in my head, like, how do Pokemon evolve? Does it look like it does in the anime, like a Digivolving, like they just glow and then suddenly they're different? Or is it more gradual? Because I don't see.
That would be cool.
But like, it's weird to me to imagine that Slowpoke gets bit by the Shellder while it's holding a King's Rock, and then it like glows, and suddenly the Shellder just teleports to its head. You know?
Right.
I feel like the Shellder would climb up its body and bite onto its head, and then it would, and maybe there is some type of actual energy thing too. Maybe there is like a metaphysical thing happening that is also referring to evolution because the way it interacts with energy has been so drastically altered. I don't know.
I think different Pokemon are different too. Like if you watch a Caterpie evolve into Metapod, it's kind of just like covering itself in that, silky membrane and making a cocoon, and then hey, it's a new thing. You know what? And then when that evolves into a Butterfree, it just breaks open. Just like I don't know, there's different ways it can happen.
I got it. I think for me at least, for what I need to be comfortable is like, what is it probably there because it's actually growing and evolving like enough to be called an evolution. There is like such a concentrated like interaction with the energy that there probably is some type of illumination or glowing associated with it, and there is a drastic and quick physical change associated with it. And the anime, I always say it's not the Pokemon anime. It's not an anime. It's a cartoon. And I know that's all anime means. I hate when people differentiate, but it's a Saturday morning cartoon series For what Westerners think of the word anime, that's not the Pokemon anime. That's the Pokemon Saturday morning cartoon show. And as such, it is a heightened like cultural representation of the real world. So this image of like a Pokemon glowing and then changing to a different Pokemon is probably a representation of like evolution. Like it's a very easy shorthand that maybe they use in media in the Pokemon world. Maybe the Pokemon anime is a TV show. I think I've proposed that before in the Pokemon world.
That.
I don't know.
I believe that completely. Yeah.
They're
just trying to simplify it and say this is, evolution is like this. It's like just a sudden, instant thing, and it happens when you get to level 37 or whatever. It's kind of like there's that layer of, I don't know, it's just a game in the games where it's like you watch a Pokemon evolve and it just kind of switches between the two pictures in the old games. And then here's the new one.
And as we all know, if you step on a banana peel, you slip, you fall, a large lump rapidly grows out of your head and it instantly sprouts a bandage and throbs.
Precisely. But yeah, there's just that layer of like, well, it's just a kid's show. Yeah, it's just a game.
It's a heightened reality,
I do think those are just depictions. How do you mean?
Well, it's just a kid's show, but I don't like minimizing it like that. That sounds condescending. It is just a kid's show, but in a non-condescending way. It is, as just a kid's show, it is kind of a heightened reality as cartoons are. Like, things are exaggerated for symbolic effect.
Yeah. And I mean, there is a ton of positive you can gain from watching, any kids show for the most part. Like, just because it's for kids doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's not worth watching even as an adult, but it's not aimed at adults. So it's going to be different depictions of emotions and violence and evolution. All those things will be toned down a little bit or simplified.
You can make a kids show that is perfect, like that works for on both levels by a lot of people. Obviously, like that's that's anything someone listening to this podcast would be unfamiliar with. But my God, like stuff like Pete and Pete is some of the most beautiful art that I've ever seen, dude. I am so upset right now. Pete and Pete came into Funkin' Waffles, Craig's restaurant, and neither of us were there. Yeah, just a couple days ago. Together.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah, dude.
Wow. A miracle.
I know.
That's crazy.
I was, they're still friends. Like, they're really close friends. It's funny because I saw the picture and I thought it was just Little Pete, Danny Tamborelli, because I recognized him instantly. And then a few minutes later, I looked at the picture again and I was like, oh, wait, that's Mike Morona. That's Big Pete standing next to him. And the only reason I didn't recognize him is because they're the same height. And I expected him to be a full 2 or 3 feet taller.
Nice. Oh, that's fun.
All right.
That's pretty cool, though.
But back to Slowbro and evolution. And this question of whether it's the Slowbro or the... listen to the last episode. I expressed very clearly that I feel like it is probably more the Shellder that's evolving, but the whole idea of the evolution is it depends on this idea that they both are co-evolving. So like neither is the Slowbro, they both are the Slowbro.
Yeah.
Take the Fire Red Pokedex entry, for example. When a Slowpoke went hunting in the sea, its tail was bitten by a Shellder. That made it evolve into Slowbro. 2 things I love about this. Number 1, it illustrates that like sort of aboriginal, like American or Japanese attitude towards animals and spirits that recognizes them as an individual and a biological population and makes these stories about them. But also, the Pokedex entry doesn't specify who it made evolve into a Slowbro. It says, when a Slowpoke went hunting in the sea, its tail was bitten by a Shellder. That made it evolve into a Slowbro.
Yeah, absolutely. Huh.
So maybe the Shellder...
And that is an interesting...
evolved into a Slowbro.
The pronoun there of it is used in Pokemon a lot. And some people say that for animals. Like, oh, your dog is so cute. What's its name? It's like, well, it's not an it. It's, typically for most animals in the wild, it's either male or female, but I don't know. I feel like using the word they or them is much more accommodating to people's different genders instead of saying it, which is removed from gender.
Yeah. And it is weird. Animals are conscious. I think that's something they're probably trying to get past in the Pokemon world. Like, there are probably Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm sure that's an issue that you'd bring up on Silph Radio in the Pokemon canon is, should we refer to Pokemon as it or them?
I'm sure they have buttons that say, like, my pronouns are not it.
Not it, right, exactly. But in that Pokedex entry, if it had said they evolve into Slowbro, it's like, well, are they talking about the Slowpoke or the Shellder or both? Because it's almost a plural identity, which is wild.
Slowbro has a button that says, my pronouns are them, and them. There's no they. It's just them.
Nice. Man.
So, I don't know. I think there's more evidence, too. Like, according to the Sun and Moon Pokedex, it says spacing out is basically all it does. It spaces out while gazing at the sea. With Shellder's poison flowing through its body, it becomes even spacier. So,
yeah,
the Slowbro doesn't do much, just kind of spaces out.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me wonder if the poison's kind of psychedelic and is making it, like, high in a way.
Yeah.
So the Slowbro isn't very active, we'll say. And maybe the Shellder is more active. When the Shellder bites down on the tail, it inspires the Slowbro. So the Slowbro will move and attack because normally it's too lazy to want to attack. So actually, in a battle, the Shellder is very often more piloting the Slowbro and deciding what happens, which, again, more evidence that the Shellder is the focal point of a Slowbro. Because the Slowpoke can't fish anymore, it will swim to find its food, and the Shellder feeds on its scraps. So that's another, like, inadvertent thing where, like, the fact that the Slowpoke doesn't feel pain is, like, inadvertently encouraging the Shellder to stay on there long enough to make it evolve. And the fact that it's moving around is like the Shellder is now inadvertently motivating it to get moving as well as purposefully.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and I don't know. I find it really interesting.
Yeah, it's a cool relationship. And I do think that Slowpoke is very non-combative. Like, I think I saw somewhere online that it's very rare, if ever, when Slowpoke actually uses an attack in the anime, which is kind of interesting. But then, once it evolves, I think the more aggressive nature of a Shellder kind of makes it a little bit more ready to do battle.
Yeah.
And that's something you can't really represent in the game, is have a Pokemon that can't attack or attacks every, like, 5th turn because it's on such a slow time scale. But
you could, though, like, as we're moving forward, like,
it'd be kind of cool.
There would be a lot of resistance to completely dramatically rebooting the entire combat system.
Oh yeah.
But
if it was like real time based, like if you have a high speed stat, you can attack, more times than your opponent or whatever.
Oh god, that would be really cool though in that, like, hypothetical 3D Pokemon game.
Right. If you could run around too and, like, dodge attacks, and I do think that'd be fantastic.
Or even better yet, you're not in direct control of your Pokemon. But you have to train them to actually... Oh, this is great. Or maybe there are moments when you're in control of them, so that when you actually have the battles, you're seeing if they do what you've been training them to do. And that's awesome.
Or you train them on different, like, routes, or almost like programming a little bit, which is used in some Final Fantasy games. Like, you kind of teach someone what you want them to do. Like, if you lose 75% of your health, switch over to this behavior and this routine. If you're poisoned, switch over to this routine. If your enemy is at 10% health, switch over to this routine. You can come up with these different, like, tactics, like like a football coach or whatever. Like, you have the different little plays. If he's coming at you with an ice attack, do this. Like, that would be kind of cool if you could train them to be reactive on their own.
Oh man,
it's complicated, but it would be kind of interesting.
But that would be great, too. It would be complicated, but, like, that would be another great way to, like, create a game that naturally encourages people to play within the limitations of the, like, canonical world. Like, everybody isn't going out there and catching them all and having a million different Ubers trained to level 100 to choose from. Like, it's actually a lot harder and requires a lot more focus and care on your individual Pokemon to train a team of 6 Pokemon. Like, most people don't have 6 Pokemon in the Pokemon world because that's really difficult.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a great way to encourage people to, like, become more connected to their team and not just, you know, I don't know.
I think we might want to do another episode that's almost a follow-up to our Pokemon MMO one, where each player is like that you take over a Pokemon gym. You have to figure out what type you want to specialize in, and then train up those Pokemon to be able to act in your absence, and like train your kind of underlings, the other trainers, teach them how to use their Pokemon effectively against whoever. And then even when you're not playing the game, other people go and challenge your gym. And like, I don't know, it'd be kind of cool if you set up the gym and its expectations and how each Pokemon is trained, and then other people come and try to defeat your gym while you're not playing. Like, it's on autopilot because you already trained everyone to function the way you want them to.
Yeah.
That'd be a really cool game. I would get so into that. I know not everyone would, but...
And I still want to do that Pokemon Sim episode that we mentioned. That's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah, dude.
So... Mega Slowbro.
More games in the Pokemon canon, please. Yes.
Mega Slowbro is an enigma. Mega Slowbro is interesting. I'm not pleased.
Yeah. I think the idea of Mega Evolution is kind of throws a wrench in the whole traditional perspective of what evolution is in the Pokemon world. But it makes sense that the Shellder is getting enough scraps and enough nutrition and is gaining all the experience from combat, because the Slowpoke part is just kind of chilling. So, your Shellder is leveling up a lot and getting stronger and bigger, and it kind of starts to take over more of the pink part. And so then Mega Slowbro is just...
It's a Slowpoke being eaten by a Shellder, basically. Its head's poking out, it's got its arms
tail
poking out, and I guess
its tail's poking out the bottom.
Yeah, and it bounces on its tail as a spring.
Bounces on its tail. It's kind of goofy.
I don't like it because it just looks stupid. Like, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And the idea is that now it's wearing the Shellder like armor because the Shelders started to actually fully consume it. There's something we haven't mentioned, which is this Pokemon is very inspired by... Well, we did kind of mention it with the name, but like parasite and host relationship. Mm-hmm. But... is it a parasite and host relationship, though? Like, because they seem like symbiotes.
Yeah, I agree. For the most part.
They seem like they have a mutual relationship. It seems to help the Slowbro, not hurt it. It motivates it to start doing things and not just...
And it allows it to walk upright, which gives you a lot more access to things, and that's probably why it evolves to have more fingers, is so that it can, climb trees or whatever, things that Slowpokes don't need to do.
Wow, you're right. Holy moly, that's why it has fingers.
Yeah, man. It's learning to walk upright.
Gosh. Maybe scientists in the Pokemon world just don't give a fuck and like mislabel shit like evolution and parasites and, like all the time.
Right? Or maybe that version of the Pokedex is not the real one. The one that we would actually live in the Pokemon world with would be much more scientifically accurate and complex, instead of just using these keywords that any 7-year-old can figure out. Evolve and parasite. Yeah,
we got to remember too, we're playing the games where people are writing the Pokedex. Well, no, not in most games, but yeah, like the Pokedex was still being developed.
And it's written by 10-year-olds.
And written by 10-year-olds. Right? Yeah, maybe it's like the internet.
Yeah, it's like Wikipedia.
Yeah,
in the wild days. That's great.
So, I don't know. My big beef with it is just, like, it doesn't... Mega Slowbro looks dumb. And, like, the idea of it wearing the Shellder as armor is a really cool idea, but it just looks dumb.
Yeah, I can't really think of any... I don't have good feedback on how they could have made it cooler. Because, I mean, my first instinct would be, like, if the Shellder's just bigger, and now it's gobbled up his back legs, too, and so the Shellder is... Or the Slowpoke part is just crawling on its hands, but that's really creepy and looks like it's actively being eaten. Or maybe you add more Shelders like onto its fists or something. That looks dumb.
It could completely just change its shape, like become more like shaped to its body so that its feet can stick out as well and it can stand.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
I think I can see something in my head like half formed that would be pretty cool. But
good deal.
It is what it is. It's not what we got. You know, sometimes animals look stupid.
Yeah. And it's temporary. It's just a mega evolution. It's not forever.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
So, like, we talked about Sazai Oni last time, the, like, turban shell demon. And there's a take on that in Japanese culture of, like, pink creatures that live in turban shells. A lot of times it's depicted as the actual shell that's the monster, which is what we kind of talked about last time. But sometimes there's this spin on it where the fact that it has this pink mollusk living inside the shell is sort of the focal point, and that's the creature. There's Shellmon in Digimon. There's this hermit crab type monster in Power Rangers, for example. It's an interesting trope. I've seen other things with just like pink slime monsters crawling out to attack people. I don't know, some type of Junji Ito shit. I don't know. But it's a trope that kind of pops up in like anime and manga all the time, and yeah, I don't know. I like Slowbro.
Yeah, and he's not a yucky looking creature. You know, he's like really cute and like appealing, his shape and proportions and everything. I don't see him as being some kind of Oni, but I don't know. And based on that folklore, that yokai kind of makes sense that he could be, or they could be the evil part of it, and the Shellder's just there for the ride. But in our canon, it seems like Shellder is the one calling the shots, and
yeah, I mean, I don't think it's
pulling the strings.
I think it's a monster in the sense that it's a Pokemon. You know, it's a creature. It's not a monster like
Pocket monster.
It's not monstrous. It's not evil, but it's a weird pink creature that it doesn't exactly live in a turban shell, but it's clearly another. It's part of a long line of pink creatures with turban shells.
Yeah, I do think the hermit crab typing doesn't really make sense. Or was it hermit shell?
No, it's hermit crab.
I forget the exact.
Yeah, I don't like that.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, it couldn't just be the hermit Pokemon.
That's a bad translation.
Like,
or the turban shell Pokemon.
Yeah, like the hermit crab Pokemon. Like, it's not a crab.
There's no crab elements here except for the shell.
But you
know,
it's
weird.
Maybe it's like the person who called it that. Because, like, in Japan, I feel like English is, like, a lot of people are familiar with English, if not fluent in it. So maybe they knew that, like, what do they call them? Yadanori or Yadokari? Yadokari, I think, is hermit crab in Japan. So maybe they knew a Yadokari was called hermit crab in America, but they didn't know a crab meant little pinchery thing. You know what I mean? So
right.
They
like
were
crabby.
Yeah, so they didn't realize that it would specifically denote a hard-bodied, like, pinchy guy. That's my best way of describing a crab right now.
Yeah.
It's 11:30 on a Sunday morning. Give me a break.
That's pretty accurate. Pinchy guy.
That was also
That's really good.
My nickname in middle school.
Classic.
I don't even know what that one means. Don't think too hard about that one, or it's really gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
But that I don't know. That kind of makes sense. Sometimes I think I try to reverse engineer these ideas too much, though, and it might just be like, oh no, scientists just don't give a shit in the Pokemon world.
Yeah, I do think there are kind of other priorities, or maybe they just haven't been focused enough on the science. I don't know. But then again,
I just want to see Neil deGrasse Tyson tell me about how hermit crabs are parasites and that they evolve when they find a shell.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they do have a more confusing biological realm, I would say, than what we have here on Earth for the most part, where you can not like classification is the most easy thing ever, but there's a lot less things that are kind of inspired by two different animals that would be in totally different genuses and everything. Like, I don't know. There's a lot more weird Pokemon than there are weird animals in our reality.
Yeah. I'll say Richard Attenborough, not Neil deGrasse Tyson. Why would I ask an astrophysicist to explain that to me in the first place?
I mean, he is a science explainer, or whatever that term is. Scientific
Richard Attenborough probably doesn't
advocate.
even know shit. He just reads scripts.
Could be. He's got a good voice for it, though.
Hey, it's Nathan from the future. I meant David Attenborough, not Richard Attenborough. Richard Attenborough was Santa Claus and John Hammond. I'm talking about David Attenborough. I'm pretty sure they're brothers, and David does all the like National Geographic things. Yeah. I like Slowbro.
In the Pokemon universe, they've explored, outer space and stuff like that, no problem. But it's just the classification of these creatures that is difficult. And I do think the fact that they're working on different countries and each country has its own different thing as far as what species are available there, it's like it would be kind of hard to mesh those different classification trees if they're coming out totally differently. I don't know.
Speaking of classification trees,
okay,
you can branch off. You don't have to evolve your Slowpoke to a Slowbro. You can evolve it to number 199, introducing one of the original Poke Gods, King, a.k.a. Slowking, the Sage of the Sea, as he's known in Alola. Species type Royal Pokemon, and it evolves when you trade it holding a King's Rock, which also evolves Poliwhirl to Politoed, which I wasn't even thinking about. Makes how these sense. Pokemon are.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they're complementary Pokemon. Are they? No,
interesting.
They're not, because they're not. He was in a 3-stage. But maybe they're treated as such in Johto.
Could be.
Yeah, I don't know.
So the King's Rock is kind of a rock that's shaped like a crown. Do you think that the Slowpoke actually puts it on its head, and that's why the Shellder bites it on its head? Or is Shellder out of the equation because you're just trading the Pokemon?
Well, maybe... Holy crap, holy. Maybe if evolution is a cultural label as much as it's a biological label, then maybe they did have their own culture with these rocks, and maybe the rocks do still have some special elemental properties like leaf stones and firestones do, but they're shaped like crowns because the Slowpokes actually would have their leaders or something, because we know that these are intelligent. They're some of the most intelligent Pokemon, like Slowking especially is, but I think then Slowpoke and Slowbro probably would be too, but they're just so lost in thought. But it would kind of make sense maybe that they had a chief or a king that they would give this rock to, so maybe it is more symbolic. And if so, I have a take on Slowking. So Slowking, for those who don't know, the cloister isn't biting on its tail. Instead, it's biting on its head and injecting the poison directly into its brain, which makes it insanely smart. The Pokedex says as smart as award-winning scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson or David Attenborough.
And it's not just really smart scientists, it's only those who have won awards, because I'm sure there are no smart scientists who didn't win an award. It's a little close-minded people.
Fuck you, Professor Elm.
But in the anime, this creature can speak English or kind of ESP with people.
Yeah, which is really interesting, because in the anime, every Pokemon can speak English.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, I'm just being a dick. I'm sorry. No, you're right. That did catch me off guard in that second movie. Yeah, and is it because it's just another random Pokemon that can talk, or is it because it's so insanely smart?
My theory on it is, so we were talking earlier about being present versus being like kind of overwhelmed with your thoughts, and there's another take on it where being bit in the head by something tends to take you into the present and remove distracting thoughts, just like stubbing your toe. That pain is like, okay, I'm here now. This really hurts, and now I'm focused on this moment instead of when am I going to get my car washed or whatever. So maybe that pain causes the Slowking to be able to process its thoughts faster and express them, whereas Slowpoke and Slowbro are just like,
wow,
whoa, dude. Like, there are some profound things there, but they're like too out of their mind to express them or act on them.
And that's a thing too. Like I can speak to in my life one of the reasons there haven't been a lot of Silph radios lately is over the last year and a half. A year and a half ago, I went through like the worst pain I've ever like endured. If you want evidence of like what I was going through, the one podcast I recorded while I was in bad condition and thinking I was in good enough condition to record a podcast was the one with Brianna about the Pikachu movie, where Pikachu talks. And I start off okay. You can hear by the end of that podcast I sound like complete shit. Compare it to like any other podcast, and you can hear it in my voice, like how in bad condition I was in. But the point was, like going through that did make me sort of like become more meditative in my everyday life and more mindful and aware in the moment to moment, and just generally calmer and better at handling things in my life. Like it did make me sort of better at organizing everything and inspiring me. The fucking Shellder bit down and inspired me to motivate me to do things and get things done. And yeah, that's a real thing. They say that Slowking's calm in any situation, never stressed. But if the Shellder comes off, it will forget everything it has learned, which is
crazy. That's like heartbreaking.
It is, but that vibes too, because like it's easy to be like, I'm going to change my life when you don't have something that's going to bite you if you don't. Or it's easy. It's hard to. It's easy to say that, and it's hard to do it if you don't have something that's going to bite you if you don't. So, like, when you've got something there reminding you, if you fall off, it's not going to be easy. It's a lot better at motivating you to not forget everything you've learned and become complacent again.
Do you think that knowledge stays with the Shellder, and then when it transforms something else into a Slowking, it has those previous memories from the last host? Or
that'd be crazy.
I mean, that's kind of creepy, but it's like a hard drive being transferred from one computer to another.
What if that's the Shelders that bite onto the head? The ones that have already changed and broken off, and then another Slowpoke finds it and wears it as a crown.
That's pretty cool. Because it would be in the turban form already, and so maybe Shellder goes through that evolution of the little clam shape, then the Slowbro style turban shape, and then the Slowking style turban shape with the little gem, wherever that comes from, and the little horny thingies. I like that idea. Interesting.
Very interesting.
One thing that I think is cool is that Slowbro can't feel pain, but presumably Slowking can.
Yes.
And like we were saying, maybe that pain is what has led them to their incredible mental achievements and, scientific level achievements, is that they can feel pain, and that pain drives them to, I don't know, make the world a better place, or just to communicate more, or whatever. It's
deep shit on the nature of reality.
It's a little maybe emo, but it's also relatable.
Yeah, what motivates things? I mean, just go down to the very bare bones, like what motivates the first multicellular organism that forms a mouth to do anything, the pain of not having enough proteins, and it's, I don't know, Yeah.
I think a lot of the most important lessons people ever learn are very painful lessons, and I feel like that's kind of what Slowking goes through on maybe a daily basis because of these, poisonous toxins being injected into its brain, but it can still feel pain, whereas the Slowbro is totally numb and is just like, whatever, dude.
It's only emo if you're like struggling against it. It's it's sad but beautiful. Like if it's accepted as a part of life and if you try to handle it gracefully.
Theory of everything. Like Stephen Hawking. Wow.
And when the Slowking yawns, here's the part that just ties it all together for me, is like, when the Slowking yawns, the Shellder injects more poison. So now the Slowpoke is the one that's in control. The Shellder is the one that's in control for a Slowbro. The Slowpoke is the one that's in control for the Slowking. And I think that that can also be a really powerful lesson if we're going to use this as a metaphor, like that, like when you're able to take that thing that causes you pain and use it, and you can control it, and how it motivates you.
Wow.
Yeah, and
that's absolutely true. And focusing on the source of that pain when you need more inspiration or you need more fuel, for whatever you're trying to achieve, it's going to be hard. And if you can look at that pain in the face and say, I'm going to turn this into a positive. Wow, dude.
Take your pain and wear it like a crown, and you will be a king among bros.
What is it? Sage of the Sea?
The Sage of the Sea. They're in Alola. They're known to match wits, quote unquote, with Orangurus on the beach, which Orangurus are said to be one of the most intelligent, brilliant Pokemon. I wonder how they match wits.
I like to imagine there are just public chess sets set up on the beach, like you see in public parks and stuff, and they're just out there every morning at the crack of dawn with all the old men playing chess.
Yeah, of course there's ways to measure intelligence without verbal language. Look at me being so anthrocentric.
Freestyle rap battles.
Yeah. It's a really fascinating and interesting Pokemon. I tried to get a grip on like the strategy, there's the common strategic outlooks on Slowbro, but there doesn't seem to be that much uniformity. I guess it's a tank, which means it has high defense, but it's low speed. And the Slowbro has higher defense, while Slowking has higher special defense, I guess. So I don't know. With Slowbro, you can use it as like a wall. It can learn Slack Off to get like half its health back. If you switch it out, if it's got Regenerator, it gets a third of its health back. It can definitely be used to like pick people off. You can teach it Scald, or you can teach a Slowking Flamethrower even to like burn your opponents and pick their Pokemon off while it just takes the brunt of all the damage. And I'd imagine like in universe it's Calm Mind, not the move, which is I guess a good move to have, but like just its Calm Mind helps with it like being a wall and just sitting there and taking all the damage that's thrown at it.
Yeah, I like that. And that's kind of there's like a martial arts mindset that's I think kind of common in Taoism as well, of like trying to keep your mind as clear as you can so that you're prepared for anything that comes at you. Like you can be more, I don't know, prepared for reacting.
Yeah, to like...
So I don't know, there is something that comes with a calm mind.
To react intuitively and naturally. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Taoism, not Taoism. I'm trying to pronounce anime and Taoism right.
Right? Yeah, I think it is Taoism.
Well, it's sort of like a combination of the D and T sound that we don't really have in English, and so either are right. But
right,
Taoism is supposedly more in line with like the way we normally translate that, and it's more correct. Basically, it's more righter.
Sweet.
And that's Slowbro in a turban shell.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What if a Shellder bit onto its head and its tail?
Oh my god. Slow God.
Yeah, there you go. And it feels no pain, but it's also... Well, I don't know.
Get your game, Shark.
If it'd be as smart, it would look cool.
Would it look cool?
I think it could look cool.
Yeah, I can see it.
If you just Photoshop the top of Slowking, the bottom of Slowbro.
A little over-designed at this point. And then what if it Mega Evolved?
Yeah, sure. Right. We need to do a Hyper Mega Evolved for the next generation. So
there's a Shellder biting onto the bottom of the big giant Shellder that's consuming the Slowpoke that is wearing a crown.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. That makes sense.
There's nowhere to go from there.
It could just be a gigantic Shellder with like just Slowpoke's tail poking out of its mouth. Like that's the only thing that's left.
It's just a Shellder. It's
Right.
just a Shellder at this point.
Oh my gosh.
Just
It's
a regular
dissolved.
Shellder with its tongue sticking out.
That's a question. Is the Slowpoke part being digested? It's not, because
I don't think it
it's
actually...
totally back to original form.
I don't think it is being digested, but I think the Shellder is sort of trying to eat it. But it's...
Just the fact that like in the Mega Evolution, Slowpoke's tail is kind of poking out of supposedly, I don't know, the rear end of the Shellder.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
It's coming out the backside somehow. So I don't know if that's already been processed or...
Maybe it ate the tail.
What that
Maybe
is.
the tail came off.
Yeah, that could be it. And it's being pooped out.
Yeah.
And it's bouncing on its own protruding turd.
God damn it. This is the worst.
Protruding
This is the
turd.
most toilety episode of Silph Radio
You're
we've
welcome.
recorded.
Now you know what to expect from Andrew Spohn on your podcast. This is my true form.
If
Oh,
you want to
man.
hear Andrew Spawn a little more family friendly with a little less potty mouth, you can go check out Amusement Sparks. What you got going on over there?
Yeah, the most recent episode was inspired by like murder mysteries and like detectives throughout pop culture, so it's called Mystery City. And then the one before that, our own beloved Nathan K was on for Jurassic World Living Legends, which I don't know if you guys know this, but he's pretty much really into the Jurassic Park / World series, and so we made our own theme park based on that fictional theme park.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And then the one before that was Shonen Ultimate Action World, which is just kind of taking tropes and genres from the shonen set of genres and making a theme park about that. So those are the 3 most recent episodes, but every episode we design a new theme park. So
Yeah.
yeah, new episode every 3rd Monday.
And what, me and Craig did Batman with you, and I did Nickelodeon.
And you did a Nickelodeon, like 90s Nickelodeon episode.
You know what I really want to
awesome.
see? I want a game called Super Splat Brothers, and it's Smash Brothers, but with classic Nickelodeon characters. So bad.
I think... Wait, there's a Cartoon Network version of that.
I want a good Nickelodeon one. Little Pete's my main. I need this game.
Angry Beavers, Rugrats.
Oh, Harriet the Spy's got to be in there. Like, really,
Aw.
Smash Brother this shit the fuck up.
That'd be pretty cool.
It would be. It would be. You get Reptar in there, like Quail Dog.
Oh, yeah.
Helga.
Aw.
Yo, Helga would be a beast.
And it's a fighting game where you knock each other out, or you just kind of
which is-
knock them off the screen.
It's so funny
cartoony.
because none of the Nickelodeon characters are designed for fighting, but
Right.
the network's programming, like the whole philosophy was like get artists and creators to come up with their own original content. Don't get in the way of it, and it should be non-violent because everything's just a bunch of violent stuff that's constructed by corporations to like market. And like Nickelodeon was very much not that, which is very much not fit for Smash Brothers, but at the same time I think it would be so awesome.
Sometimes the most unexpected design decisions are the most fun ones, because like, what? How did this happen?
Right? Yeah, Mario's not designed for a fighting game either. That's why Smash Brothers is such a perfect framework to start from.
And framing it from the place of like, these are just a bunch of action figures. Like, this is what kids are playing with their action figures doing anyway. So let's make that into a game where you can play it with your friends. And
Is that still what Smash Brothers is?
I don't think so. They never show it as those little amiibo style figures and stuff like they used to. But I believe Melee was the last one that did that. I mean, Slowpoke was one of the Poke floats in that level that was just a bunch of huge Pokemon balloons that you're fighting on top of.
Yeah.
There was a Slowpoke in that.
Yeah.
It all ties in.
I love imagining that was really happening. Like that was a parade over Celadon City one day, and like
Oh my
little
gosh.
did the residents know that there was this clandestine society
Fight club.
Yeah, fight club beating it out atop their
that's
balloons
awesome.
of their beloved Pokemon characters. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. We both got jobs to attend to, or something. I got
Yes,
a
sir.
job.
I got a job. I'm a big boy.
It's been fantastic. Please, if you want more Silph, do what you can to let me know. Hit us up on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you can find us, and go to www.secretroommultimedia.com. You can find all the Silph Radio. I've got 2 other podcasts that you're bound to enjoy. There's comics, there's videos, there's music, and so much more coming soon.
Dude, yeah, your new album Play is so good, by the way, and the website looks really good these days.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. It's still a little like I want to update it more. I want to make more like blog posts and stuff, but I don't know. You guys got to understand, like, I do all of this by myself. Like I research the podcast, produce the podcast, edit the podcasts, put them on the website, keep the website maintained and updated, write the blogs, keep up with the social media, and it's a lot to keep up with a full-time job. So
that's so true.
So any way you can help, like, I'm not asking for money, but go like the damn page and subscribe to the YouTube, please. I could be making money off YouTube. Right?
Yeah, support your local podcaster however you can. It's a really fun job. I'm not going to say it's a thankless job, but I don't know. It is sometimes like you're just the only person who is working on it. Like, it's not like a big team effort all the time. Like, recording is, but then there's all the lonely stuff, all the uploading and editing and all that. Yeah.
Don't let me sell anybody else short, though. I could not do any of this without, Craig is just as much involved in it. He just doesn't do the creative, or not the creative side. He does do the creative side. I'm sorry. He doesn't do the, like, the, you know what I mean? Like the tinkering side.
Technical?
He doesn't put it together. And all the people that make it a point, like you and Antoine and Brianna, to like regularly contribute to my passion project blows me away, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I mean, when you make cool stuff, people are attracted to it. So
thanks, man.
Get out there and make something.
Back at you. Keep making the amusement sparks. I can't wait to come on and do some more.
Yeah, me too. You're a great co-host. You're really good at doing that kind of hypothetical brainstorming stuff.
Thanks, man.
It's awesome.
Well, from the Secret Room, I've been Nathan K.
I've been Andrew Spohn.
Enjoy your week, guys, and wear your pain like a crown. No stress.
Amen.